Sorry about that. Sorry about that, everybody online. World AIDS Day service has a lot of emotions to it, and so it's easy to forget stuff. But I appreciate you joining us this evening, those of you who are here in the building and those of you who are participating online for this really important service. We're going to start with a centering moment to kind of get us into this time, into this space, which obviously I need as well as you do. So let us begin in our centering by lighting our hope candle. This first week of Advent is the week of hope, and we certainly need a lot of hope. Hope is about having a vision for the future. And on days like today, when we're considering the past and we're wondering how things are going to go in the future, having a vision candle like this can be really helpful. So I invite you to take a moment and prepare yourself for the reason that you've come tonight or whenever you're watching this, for the reason that you want to engage in a spiritual moment that has to do with grief and sorrow and activism and courage. Take a deep breath and let us find ourselves together in this time and in this space.
Please join me in this call to worship. Tonight, we remember together our family, friends, and loved ones who have lost their battle with HIV/AIDS.
We feel the pain of grief to each other's company.
Tonight, we remember together our family, friends, loved ones, and ourselves who are living with AIDS.
We reach out to each other for strength, comfort, and this particular understanding which we share together.
Tonight, we deeply breathe in the presence of the holy and of each other.
We create this holy space together in love and in remembrance.
Let us sing together Call to Prayer. It is number 61 from the Sing book, which you can find under your seats. Please stand as you are able in body or spirit.
Spirit and word since the
You may be seated. Our biblical witness today is from Psalm 35, 1 through 5, and then verse 12 and 17 through 24. I'm trying to get kind of the sense of the psalm without having to read the whole thing, but I encourage you, as always, to read it all. The psalmist says this: "Contend, O God, with those who contend with me. Fight against those who fight against me. Take hold of shield and buckler and rise up to help me. Draw the spear and the javelin against my pursuers. Say to my soul, I am your salvation. Let them be put to shame and dishonor who seek after my life. Let them be turned back and confounded who devise evil against me. Let them be like chaff before the wind, with the angel of the Lord driving them on. They repay evil for good. My soul is forlorn. How long, O Lord, will you look on? Rescue me from the ravages, my life from the lions. Then I will thank you in the great congregation. In the mighty throng, I will praise you. Do not let my treacherous enemies rejoice over me, or those who hate me without cause wink the eye. For they speak as if they speak of peace, but they do not. But they conceive deceitful words against those who are quiet in the land. They open wide their mouths against me, and they say, aha, aha, our eyes have seen it. You have seen, O Lord. Do not be silent. O Lord, do not be far from me. Wake up. Bestir yourself for my defense, for my cause. My God and my Lord, vindicate me. O Lord my God, according to your righteousness, and do not let them rejoice over me.
First contemporary witness. This is a quote by Winnie Byanyima, Executive Director of UNAIDS, Undersecretary General of the United Nations. Racism is a public health and human rights issue of global concern. It is recognized that racism is a key determinant of disease and defines who has access to life-saving prevention, treatment, quality health care, and overall well-being. Failure to tackle racism will continue to cost millions of lives and livelihoods around the world. To stall progress on tackling poverty, to block development efforts and threaten global public health and economic security.
We face a problem at the moment on almost every level because of COVID, because of the war, because of the financial crisis. Then budgets around the world are constrained, and we have to accept in HIV/AIDS that we are batting in that kind of area. What I hope we can establish is that with HIV/AIDS, this is a crucial matter of life and death. I mean, we are aiming and trying to get to a position where, as in 2030, we will have eliminated AIDS. Whether we do or not is really up to us in a sense, but it's also up to the people who are supporting us. But it would be an enormous gain for the world if we could do that.
As I am a woman living with HIV, I know the pains of being positive. I know the challenges. And I don't want people to pass through what I passed through in the area of stigma. I have been stigmatized in the past from the family I'm coming from, but right now I've overcome stigma. I'll put stigma under my foot and I'm working on it. And even 7,000 patients I have at Medical Center Maraba, I've empowered them on how to overcome stigma. I have used my status to put smiles in the face of people living with HIV. And I have put myself, because I know that who wears the shoe knows where it pinches them.
What I've learned is that the last few years there's been a loss of momentum regarding HIV/AIDS research, prevention, and treatment. It started happening before the COVID pandemic. The meds we have now are, well, they're a whole lot better than they were. And people started to relax, thinking that because things were getting better, they didn't need to, they didn't need to have the same push and vigor in attending to the issue. When COVID happened, of course, there was a surge of energy and resources to figure out the cause and address the treatment. In the midst of that, we saw just how clearly inequality played out in terms of who received treatment and when. Racial bias was displayed before our eyes, as was the bias of socioeconomic factors. The most marginalized, who are always the most vulnerable based on working environment, health conditions, and such, were most often the last to receive treatment or preventative measures, such as the vaccine. This also influenced how we saw the bias in HIV/AIDS treatment and prevention measures. The truth of marginalization leading to vulnerability to the powerful lay naked before us. There's now a statement by the U.S. government in agreement with the UN AIDS Global Vision to end the HIV/AIDS pandemic by 2030. It's going to take a commitment and the releasing of resources to make that happen. President Biden wrote a proclamation yesterday. In it, he says, "It was long hard to imagine, but today we are within striking distance of eliminating HIV transmission worldwide. Still, not everyone has equal access to that care, and for the more than 38 million people around the world now living with HIV, especially members of the LGBTQI+ community, communities of color, women, and girls, a diagnosis is still life-altering. We can do better." When I became president, we reestablished the White House Office of National AIDS Policy and released a roadmap to accelerate efforts to end the HIV epidemic in the United States by 2030. Federal agencies have committed to nearly 400 related actions, working with stakeholders across the country to make the latest advances in HIV prevention, diagnosis, and treatment available to everyone. I have asked Congress for $850 million to increase the use of pre-exposure prophylaxis, expand treatment, and fight the stigma that stops many people from getting care. We are working to remove barriers to employment with our armed services, for example, ending blanket restrictions on HIV-positive service members being deployed or commissioned, and we are calling on states to repeal or reform so-called HIV criminalization laws, which wrongly punish people for exposing others to HIV. These outdated laws have no basis in science, and they serve to discourage testing and further marginalize HIV-positive people. His full proclamation is on the website. It's on whitehouse.gov. So these statements are great. They're inspiring. They lead us toward hope. But statements aren't enough. They need to be followed through on. When I read Psalm 35 and I hear the psalmist call out to God, I imagine them not just begging and pleading, "Oh, God, help me." I hear them challenging God. The first sentence of that psalm is direct, and it's directive. "Contend, O God, with those who contend with me. Fight against those who fight against me." I imagine their heart thinking, "Oh God, you have power and authority that I don't. Look at what's going on." And a little later on, they say, "For they do not speak peace, but they conceive deceitful words against those who are quiet in the land." It makes me think about how often bullies act as if they're doing something righteous and virtuous to get away with their power-grubbing schemes and their violence. They speak words of peace like family values. But really, they're doing their best to take down families that make them feel uncomfortable because they don't look like theirs, even though there's no demonstrative threat against them. The psalmist says to God, "Do not be silent. Wake up." The psalmist says this to God. "Bestir yourself, for my defense. Now, this is one agitated psalmist. They see and feel trouble, and they want action. They aren't afraid to make some noise to see justice done. They call on the highest power they can think of, the one who has promised to have their back. They call them on their promise and ask, "Where are you, and what are you doing?" I think that one of the reasons for church is to help us stir up each other, to motivate each other to take actions. If we're complacent, then those in power have no reason to act. When we show that we're stirred up, then they have to deal with it. It stirs them up. Just like the psalmist called out to God, we have to call out to our local, regional, state, and national leaders. Wake up. Bestir yourself. Are you seeing what's happening? What are you doing about it? We can't bring back our friends and family and all those people we don't know who have died from AIDS and from AIDS-related conditions. We will mourn them and celebrate who they were and still are for us. Our love for them can help motivate us. We can make a difference for those who are living with AIDS now. And we can participate in helping to bring about the eradication of the transmission of HIV. UN AIDS on their website talk about how inequalities are obstructing the end of AIDS. Infections are currently on the rise. Infections that are leading to death. And this doesn't have to be. Just as we challenge God in prayer and with our actions to follow through on our behalf, we also need to challenge those in power who have stated their commitments to this cause of bringing the HIV/AIDS epidemic to an end. Our ministry of progressive Christians is vital to issues such as this. In a November 29th quote from the UN AIDS Executive Director, Winnie Byanyami, "The world will not be able to defeat AIDS while reinforcing the patriarchy." That's a great quote. This is part of the work we're doing with our theology and social activism. The work we do is interwoven. One thread tucked on influences the rest. In the epistle called Hebrews, in chapter 10, verse 24, the writer says, "Let's consider how to stir one another up to love, to good deeds." This teaching is meant to help us stay engaged with the work and with each other. There are still good works to do and people in power to hold accountable. When we do that together, we share the weight and our voices become stronger. That's all important. But that's not the only reason we came here tonight. There are times like these when it's important to temporarily lay down our burden so that we can reflect. Tonight, you're invited to remember those who have had HIV and AIDS and died. To mourn the loss you feel, to be angry about it, to be sad, to be. Tonight, we can breathe into the fact that those that we know and maybe even ourselves are people living with HIV/AIDS. And we can be angry about that and be sad and just be. So let's take that breath from our calling to make a difference and just be in this space together.
I've heard it said that people come into our lives for a reason, bringing something we must learn, and we are led to those who help us most to grow if we let them. passes the sun, like a stream that meets a boulder halfway through the wood. Who can say if I've been changed for the better? But because I knew you, I have been changed for good.
It well may be that we will never meet again in this lifetime. So let me say before we part, so much of me is made of what I've learned from you. You'll be with me like a handprint on my heart. And now whatever way our stories end, I know you have rewritten mine by being my friend. Like a ship blown from its mooring by a wind off the sea, like a seed dropped by a sky bird in a distant wood. Who can say if I've been changed for the better? But because I knew you,
Because I knew you,
I have been changed for good. And just to clear the air, I ask forgiveness for the things I've done you blame me for.
but then I guess we know there's blame to share.
And none of it seems to matter anymore.
Like a promise pulled from
Like a ship blown from
as
its
it passes
mooring
the
by a
sun,
wind off the sea.
like a wing that meets
Like a
a
seed
boulder
dropped by a bird in the wood. Who can say
if I've been changed for the better?
I do believe I have been changed
for the better. And because I knew you,
because I knew you. Because I knew you, I have been changed for good.
So we have a couple rituals to do tonight. And one of them is over here at the center table. We've got crosses that have ribbons on them. And then there's also pens where you can write the name of someone, a picture, a symbol, whatever it is you want to do. And then you can pin, there's AIDS ribbons in the other bowls and safety pins. So you can pin the AIDS ribbon on the cross and then bring them back to your seat and we'll bless them once we're all done. And additionally, we have our candelabra that we've been using for the past, this is our 7th year with the candelabra. And we've got some more ribbons that we can tie onto the candelabra. So we're gonna do that. And I know that we've got people who are doing jobs, including Marshall playing the piano. So Marshall, if you want to stop playing piano and do something, don't worry about the silence. We're happy to have you all participate. And I will begin by lighting the black candle that's over there. To the table. Those of you who are watching online, if you want to put something in the comments about a name that you want me to later put onto a cross, I'm absolutely happy to do that. Please join your hearts with mine in prayer. Holy love, we call for your blessing on this ritual, on these remembrances, on these symbols, on the ribbons themselves, the fire, the non-fire, the whole candelabra, on all of these things which invoke any kind of memory or which help us to release our mourning, but also which help to instigate us toward action. Because your blessing isn't just some kind of a namby-pamby thing. It's meant to be a foundation. It's meant to offer power, goodness, anointing. And so, like the psalmist called out, saying, "Contend with those who contend with me," with a similar spirit, I call out, anoint us so that we can anoint those that we are mourning and that we can anoint those who are striving, who are trying to live in this life with this disease, and anoint those to prevent them from getting this disease. Anoint those who are working hard at the prevention and at the treatment. And anoint us to carry whatever burden that we must carry, to ease the load a little bit. But at the same time, oh God, contend with those who contend with us, because we're sick and tired. And we know you fight with us, and we know we can't fight alone. I'm grateful that we have each other in the fight, for the strength and the motivation and the inspiration that we provide each other, along with the friendship and the love. Strengthen this circle, holy love. And because we do this work as a ministry together, let us lift up our voices in these words of prayer, saying, "Holy love, we accept your invitation to walk with you and with each other. When we are feeble, help us reach out to your strong arm. When we are in trouble, help us call on your grace without guilt. Increase our faith when our destination seems distant and our hearts are heavy. Remind us that our doubts are evidence of thinking and feeling deeply. Draw us close as a family of faith. Where there is discord, help us mend. Give us ears to hear each other and hearts to love beyond our fears. We long to know your sacred presence more fully each day and share it with each other. We yield to Spirit. Show us how to live more honestly and to see the needs around us so we can make a difference. Our hearts are grateful and sing praises for the beauty and wonder and mystery of love."
Donations in honor of tonight's service will go to the AIDS Foundation Houston, AFH, which leads the innovative efforts in the prevention of new HIV infections and empowers individuals, families, and communities affected by HIV/AIDS to create and sustain healthy lives. AIDS Foundation Houston, Incorporated, envisions a supportive community free of new HIV infections, where individuals affected by HIV/AIDS lead healthy and productive lives without stigma and discrimination. If you would like to give to our general fund or to AFH, you can use bill pay from your bank, send us a check, use the Plymouth app, or use PushPay according to the directions on your screen. Thank you for supporting Plymouth and the ministries of the Luce Offering. Please join me in the offertory prayer. We are all one human family.
In your love, you created us.
Through your grace, you reach out to us.
You are great enough to hold us all in your arms at the same time.
Help us to open our hearts to the world that you love.
Teach us to weave our lives together.
We yield to Spirit, offering what we have to the greater good.
In this way, each day, we begin again in love. Now we're going to sing together When Peace Like a River. It's number 438 from the New Century Hymnal. You can find it in your book under your seats, but I want you to note, if you're going to read along, I've put together verses 2 and 3, so 2a and 3b are actually one of the verses. So if you can, follow the words on the screen and it'll be right.
When peace like a river upholds me each day, when sorrows like sea billows roll, whatever my lot, you have taught me to say, it is well with my soul. It is well in my soul. It is well with my soul. Though evil should tempt me, though trials should come, let this blessed assurance control that Christ has regarded my helpless estate. Praise the Lord, oh my soul. It is well with my soul. It is well with my soul. Oh, grasp me the day that is filled with your light, when clouds are rolled back as a storm, the trumpet shall sound, and the Lord shall appear. Even so, it is well with my soul. It is well with my soul. It is well with my soul.
And now, my friends, it's time to go from this moment to whatever it is you have next. We've just made a proclamation. We've made a proclamation that it is well with my soul. We may or may not believe that. It may or may not feel like your soul is doing good. But that doesn't mean that our souls aren't doing well, that they aren't on the rock-solid foundation of love and of whatever other goodness that you hold true to your soul and to your heart. And so I implore you, move forward in whatever is well. Not to deny the hard stuff, not to pretend that there are times that don't absolutely and utterly stink, but to let that be what upholds it. And let all these rituals and all these remembrances and all this grief and all this mourning be the reason that you say, and therefore I will take action. And because of this, I will live as fully in today as I possibly can live. And may it be well with your soul as you go forth in peace and as peacemakers.